Alright, hello once again. This is Jeff Scott of Rankin Technical College. I've been going through a series of video presentations for the Rankin Technical College Application and Web Development AWD1111 .NET Framework with Web Databases class. The main textbook for the class is ASP.NET MVC with Entity Framework and CSS by Mr. Lee Naylor, and we are in the middle of Chapter 17 of 18. So we just moved over our image for our MVC baby store, and now it's time to come in and talk about floating elements. It says earlier in the chapter, when we positioned the search box and search button, it had the effect of removing the space of the navigation bar that was occupied by these elements. We want to reposition the register login and your baskets to the right of the navigation bar. All right. So the register, the login, and the your basket, we want to take those and move those over to here. To achieve this, we're going to use the float property again, but this time we're going to float to the right. And as you can see, once we do that, exactly what happens. Now we've actually got a surplus of blank area in here. It's not necessarily a bad thing. All right. And as mentioned before, okay, when you look at this, you may think, yeah, that's done really well, or no, that's not done very well. But again, much of this, when you work with stuff like this, is a matter of personal preference. The author gives you a tip here. Be careful when using float right and ensure that the order of the HTML is structured correctly so that when it appears on screen, it is exactly the way you want it to be. All right. Adding animation to links using scaling. The author now demonstrates more advanced CSS techniques here to style the links of the navigation bar. They want to target all of the hyperlinks. Remember how this works. This is all links that are inside of LIs, and those LIs must have a class of nav. So in other words, they are all the list of all the anchor tags for the list items in the navigation bar. It says there are not any new properties used here besides box shadow, which is very similar to the text shadow that we had. Okay, so we've got the boxes in here with their shadow looks. Next, we want to add animation to the links when the user hovers over them. So as you can see, they turn the hot pink. This style, as it says, changes the background color and the border color. Okay. It also uses the CSS transform property to make these actually 10% larger when you hover over them. All done again in the name of style. Okay. The links now change, but the position is rather quick and jerky. To slow the transformation down, we use the ease in and set it to 1/4 of a second. These are things typically as a developer you're always going to be thinking of. All right. So again, we are talking in here about coming in and making tweaks. Okay, ideally to make this stuff look even more professional. All right. Next, starting on page 553, the author comes in here and uses the JavaScript Jquery Library to allow users to click on a thumbnail image and see the enlarged version. So the project already has Jquery included in the scripts folder. All right, it has been used before to perform client-side validation. So you were getting this whether you realized it or not. The current version installed is version 1.10.2. All right, and actually it says at the latest version available is either 1.12 or 2.24. No, it's not. It's more than that. It's 3 point something. So if I go out to jquery.com, it's going to say it's 3.3.1. Earlier versions, after version 1 do not support IE 6, 7, or 8. So I believe after, it says in there, after 224 and beyond will not. Generally, Visual Studio will include jQuery in an MVC project, but if you ever need to download it, you can. All right, and if you do download it, you'll have to add this bundle so that it's used. Now, again, jQuery is a JavaScript library. It is not only based on JavaScript, as the author says right here, it is JavaScript. So you use JavaScript syntax to allow you to write code. Now, what you basically do in here, for lack of better words, is you use the equivalent in here, all right, of a lot of anonymous functions. An anonymous function is a function that doesn't have a name. Not only that, you tend to put all of your jQuery code in what's called the document ready event. The reason for doing this is the document ready event tells jQuery to wait until the entire document has been loaded into memory. Once this happens, it runs any code within this function block. And it looks a little funky if you've not seen it before, but that parenthesis that's right there ends right here, and that curly brace right there ends right here. Okay? The $ right there is a shortcut for using the word jQuery. If you don't want to run it like this with a document ready, the shortcut version is right here. The author says that he prefers using the longer version, and many people do. All right. I've included jQuery along with CSS because it works on a similar premise to CSS in that it uses selectors. We are only touching the tip of the jQuery iceberg in this book, but the basic format of all jQuery code, all right, is in here. Now, I have mentioned this before in other classes, but I'm saying it again anyway, that if we go into jQuery and you go down to, where is it? You can go to two places. First, the core API documentation. This shows you literally every single jQuery method that exists. And as jQuery gets more and more mature, there's more and more of these. All right. Another nice place to go is the jQuery UI. All right. What the jQuery UI has over here is it has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, about 10 different things. So if I go over to effects, it categorizes stuff by different effects. So if I want something, for example, I don't know, shake effect. Okay. Here is an example. It says click anywhere to shake the box. You can see what happens. All right. There also, unless they've changed it, all right, there used to be jQuery.ui.com. And it doesn't look up with a jQuery. There it is. It's https://jQueryui.com. And what this does is it shows you about 30 of the things you're apt to use quite often in jQuery. And just like we saw earlier, it's got a lot of different examples. So if I want to show, for example, I don't know, color animation, I can go right there. And I can show exactly what's happening. In this case, it's toggling. Another place this is oftentimes used is to talk about easing, all right, and maybe the accordion widget. All right, we've all seen these kind of things. So if you wanted to set up your own accordion widget, you can go down to the view source, add all this stuff. Okay. The one thing you may have to change is, if you notice right here with the style sheet, it has just // I have found that on occasion it'll work like that, and on other occasions I've got to come in here right there and type in http://. All right, just a couple things to note. All right, so the author is going to use jQuery to change the main image in the product details page so that when the user clicks on a thumbnail, they'll get a bigger image. Based on the HTML, what we need to do in order to update the image is to detect the click on the image within the tag and then change the image that is the immediate child. All right. So they're adding this. Now, one thing about jQuery, that the people who have created jQuery, this is their claim. And I would agree with it, okay? That is, less is more. The idea is, for instance, if you want to go in fact, I'm going to go back just for a second and show you this. I just showed you this accordion. Well, the idea behind that accordion that I showed you just literally a minute ago, or a couple of minutes ago, is if we look at the actual jQuery to do this, it's all right here. Accordion.accordion. That's it. All right, so the idea with jQuery is that you write very little code. It calls built-in routines, etc., to do what you want it to do. All right, so there's our ready function. And in there, it says we want to add a new function that runs when the user clicks on the thumbnail image. There's the image, there's the click event. But we want it to do something. The first thing we want it to do is when we click on the image, we don't want it to go anywhere. So we're using that prevent default to make sure that that doesn't happen. All right. Then we create a variable that's called thumbnail address. This obtains the current address of the link that the thumbnail points to. So what we want to make sure is, rather than that coming up, when we click on something, when we click on this, let's say, we want that to come up. That's the kind of an idea. All right, now that was quick, little down, little dirty. And we talked mainly about the navigation bar, but jQuery was also introduced. The last chapter of the book is Chapter 18, which is on responsive websites. All right, now, for this class, I've created an assignment, a CSS assignment. I'm very quickly going to show you. It's nothing like, oh, wow, gee, that's really cool, Jeff. But it's this right here. All right, I'm going to have students. I'm going to give you the code. What the difference is, let me show you. I'm going to give you this. So this is no CSS. There's first year, second year, and contact pages. All right, then I'm going to want you to add the CSS so that instead of looking the way it looked, this will be the first page, this will be the second page, this will be the contact page. Again, it's nothing beautiful, but it'll allow you to use some of the stuff that we've been working with. All right? Now, this particular design is not responsive. In other words, if I change the size, notice what happens. It doesn't adjust accordingly. I'll have you do that as well in a different assignment. All right? So when I come back in just a bit, as mentioned, we will go over Chapter 18, which is on styling for mobile, cell, and tablet-sized devices. See you in a few.